right, welcome back to the final episode of this series of For the Love of Star Wars. You should all know how this works by now, so let's get on with it and bring in our guest. This week, we are joined by a man whose online name should bring a bit of a smile to your face. We've got Podracing Palpatine, aka Ian. How are you doing, Ian?
Hi there. I'm
Welcome
good,
to the
thanks.
channel for the very first time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. It's good. You guys good?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, all good, thank you. Yeah. So, Ian, tell us, what have you picked for us to talk about this
Well,
evening?
for this episode of yours, I've picked the Clone Wars Season 1 episode, The Innocents of Ryloth, which is the middle part of the Ryloth arc.
Okay. Well, I've watched the whole arc. I think, Martin, you did too, right?
Yep.
Excellent choice. So I had to go back to IMDb for the scores on this arc. So the arc itself, it averages 7.7. The Innocence of Ryloth is 7.9. So what is it that you love about this episode then?
I mean, this episode, I mean the whole show to start with. I just love the look, the style of it. You know, when it got announced, I was all on board. I like this the look that it's sort of I don't know, like an oil painting sort of come to life. The way they look, they got them smears like Bob Ross has smeared his oils across the screen. But this episode particularly, it was like the clones became more human to me. It was, they weren't just soldiers. It was they're getting compassionate towards one of the villagers. It's you know, it's Obi-Wan embodies the traits of the Jedi by basically saying, we're not here to destroy the village or anything, we're here to help them. So, you know, we need to get down there, rescue the people, minimal damage, so that you know, they'll be more on our side. And like I say, it was just the fact that Waxer and Boyle, their arc in this story goes from just being clone troopers to humans, basically real feeling people.
I know Martin, Waxer and Boyle are a couple of favourites of yours when it comes to the clones, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Waxer and Boyle on Not For the Love of Star Wars, but we did a series a while back called My Top 10 Favourite Clone Wars Episodes of All Time, and they appeared in 2 of the episodes that I picked. The one specifically, and I was actually talking to Palps about this before we came on air. What was it called? Landing at Point Rain, that was it. Which is an absolutely classic episode, and Waxer and Boyle are in that as well. But Ian's like hit the nail on the head there. There was a couple of things I noticed. As he quite rightly said, it gives some personality to the clone troopers, something that particularly didn't get in the prequel films, and the series as a whole does that, I think, over the course of 7 seasons. But also, I noticed in this episode there was the first time kind of really used the camera work that they used in this. So when there was a lot of explosions and gunfire going on, you saw a lot of shaky cam going on. So you know, it was almost like the cameraman was in the trenches, like you see in modern movies, you know, like Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that. It was the first kind of use of that, and there, you know, for animation, you know, that's quite cool, I thought. And also there's jumping ahead in the episode, there was that great scene where they're loading the missiles into the cannon for Obi-Wan, and instead of the camera sort of just switching to different angles, the camera would follow the troopers around the side and then follow them lifting the rocket into the cannon, etc. You know, it was all one. It was basically a one shot, which again, something you know, back in 2006 this came out, I think, you know, you didn't see a lot of in animation, especially on television. No. So yeah, this was for that alone, this episode is fantastic.
Yeah. And Waxer and Boyle then, Ian, the 2 clones on patrol, they meet Numa, and like you say, they kind of give that human side, and we actually see a different side to the clones. It's quite an interesting story to tell, I think. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you see Waxer and Boyle, you start off on the Crumb Bomber, the landing ship with the beautiful graphic of the Crumb dropping his bomb, and they're quite dismissive of the village populace. They're like, we call them tailheads. So it's just like, oh yeah, just keep out of our way and we'll do our job. But as it progresses and they meet Numa, and yeah, you can see, and they bounce off each other really well, Waxer and Boyle. They're a good pairing. And
yeah,
is it Boyle or Waxer? That he's the first one to remove his helmet, and therefore showing her that they are human like her. They're not droids, and hopefully they can be trusted. And she takes them on board, and you've got to admit she's the cutest thing going in this episode. I mean, Martin often likes to say that every now and then he'll watch something that he'll be chopping onions, and you'll be like, just chopping onions here. When he hands her that doll, and she just starts to cry, and you're like,
yeah,
you've got to feel something. Even they go from just being cold soldiers to sort of, we can't just abandon her. It's
yeah, definitely. And I also thought it was quite comedic, like you say, Wax and Boyle in the space of 22 minutes sort of go on a journey, don't they? They, as you say, they're dismissive to start with, and then they're actually quite disruptive, because when they're take two of your best men, and he sort of makes the underhand comment, I guess we're the best men. Yeah. It's like, it's quite funny because you never would before this, and probably even after, you've never heard clones like sort of say that sort of thing out loud in front of their commanding officer. So yeah, it was a great episode. And Numa, real cutie, really well animated. But when I was reading up about this episode, and I think I did realize it, but she actually appears in Star Wars Rebels, Numa. And obviously in the next episode we meet Cham Syndulla, who's obviously Hera's father. Well, in Rebels, Numa is an adult, and she's Cham Syndulla's second in command, fighting against the Empire. So I thought that was a nice little thing they did in Rebels, which again unless I had read the notes, I wouldn't have realised. So yeah, that was a cool little
because that would make sense, because she looks at the clones as sort of like a thing to be looked up to. So why wouldn't she aspire sort of that way?
Yeah. So
and identifies them as Nera or brother.
Yeah, brother. That's the other.
That's quite interesting. Yeah.
The bit of the sad moment I got. I got two sad moments. The one where he hands her the doll, and the one where she's like Nera, and he goes, "What she keep calling us that?" He goes, "It means brother," and you're like, got me right there.
Yeah. Exactly what the clones are supposed to be, right?
Yeah, and apparently, Numa in Twi'lek means sister, which I looked up. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
A few little Easter eggs then in this episode.
Yeah.
Martin, anything else on that?
Not on Numa and Waxer and Boyle. Although they are quite integral to the episode, I just I think moving over to sort of the droids, who've got all of the Twi'leks hostage, and they're surrounded by the cannons, and they're using them as human shields, so that the Jedi can't bomb the area. I felt that was very where Star Wars doing real world, kind of like it likes to do, but in a with a twist of Star Wars. I thought that was kind of cool, and I really enjoyed sort of, although we were mostly following Wax and Boyle, we kind of got to see Obi-Wan commanding the troops with Cody, trying to get to take out those cannons so that the Republic could land their ships. I thought that whole part of the story was excellent as well. And as I mentioned earlier, the battles were pretty good. And for season one, obviously we all know that as the Clone Wars went on, the battles got more intense, bigger. The animation was better, but even in season one, looking back and going back and watching it today, I still think it looks fantastic compared to a lot of modern day stuff that we're getting now 20 years later.
Yeah. And I have to sort of touch on the arc as a whole. The episode before this, they're all leading up to this sort of liberation of Ryloth, which is the name of the third episode in the arc. But there's such a sort of story to tell over that arc, What did you sort of make of the build up to this? Because this was all about, like Martin said, clearing the space so that they could bring in the landing. But the first episode was about getting to the actual planet. What were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I mean, it shows that Anakin as the general has to stand back to take in the whole picture of the battle. So he sends Ahsoka with these great looking clones. They've got these blue lotus flower style designs and they look fantastic, but unfortunately they don't last long. And
we lose a few of them, yeah.
and she takes that quite badly, and it's quite a harsh lesson for her to learn, but she takes it on board quite well and pulls off that brilliant maneuver where she suggests turning the is it a Venator class?
Yes,
To its side, which she's stolen from Heir to the Empire. great tactic by Grand Admiral Thrawn.
yeah. Do you know what? I'd never picked up on that, and now you've said it, it's just blown my mind. Of course, that's where it came from. Yeah, absolutely.
But because they hadn't put that to film or anything, it's like, let's do it here.
Yeah.
And it's, make the ship look in distress, draw them in, launch all your fighters, and it's like, brilliant. Really good.
Again, another Easter egg to the Clone Wars, really.
Yeah. I think we also, I mean, that episode where the arc kind of follows a different, Jedi really for each of them, but that one was kind of like, it did remind me of why Ahsoka's called Snips that episode, because she's still in the, I love Ahsoka, she's in my top 10 favorite Star Wars characters of all time, but this was her like quite annoying period before before they realized what they wanted to do with her. So it wasn't my favorite of the 3 episodes, but again, with these, animation, some of the space battles we were getting, I often think in the Clone Wars, when you watch them, you could mistake, if you weren't like paying attention too closely, to think they were live action space battles. They look so good.
Yeah.
And what about the design of the Ryloth, the planet Ryloth in general?
Yeah.
Then, Ian,
it's pretty basic if you look at it, but it's not the star of the show. Say it looks like a war-torn planet. It's the colours are muted. Nothing's vibrant. And that helps in a way. People like Waxer and Boyle and Cody really pop out, and Numa, the greens really pop out because the backgrounds just fade into insignificance. So
yeah, I think the planets, I mean, in general, when you're watching the Clone Wars, you nailed it. They're not the main, star of the show. It's the characters. So a lot of them just look like generic rock planets, don't they? And that's fine because, we're there for the story. The story's so good, you don't really tend to pay attention of what's going on in the background, particularly.
But it is kind of in keeping with the Star Wars universe, isn't it? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it certainly doesn't have the pizzazz of George Lucas's prequel planets, but it doesn't need to, does it? Because it's telling the story of the grunts, really, and so it doesn't need to be that flashy.
And the music that accompanies it, the episode, did you take on much of that? Did that stand out in any way to you, or?
I didn't really take in the music. I know.
Yeah.
Is it Kevin Kleiner?
Yeah, kind of.
Yes.
The music.
Kevin Kleiner.
He's. I've got a couple of the soundtracks, and he does a decent enough job. But it's not like, to me, it's not like a John Williams thing that's popping out of the screen. There's always something I'll hear and think he's borrowed that from another film and incorporated it here. But you think, it's. I never really took in the music.
No, I agree. I think the criticism I always had of Kevin Kleiner in the first couple of seasons is he never wanted to use any of John Williams's music. He wanted to make it his own, and while that's fine, you have to have a bit of John Williams Star Wars music in it because it's Star Wars, and you can't, it's one of the most recognizable pieces of Star Wars is the music. So I think after season 3 they kind of realized that, so the soundtracks get slightly more interesting, better, I don't know, after that, but yeah, I think the first season in general is quite experimental, isn't it? Especially with some of the episodes that you get in season 1, because there are some absolute bangers like Lair of Grievous, which is just one of my favorite episodes of all time, and then there's some really weird episodes in season 1 as well. So you know, but yeah, no, I think the Ryloth arc it definitely finished on a high, and you definitely were looking forward to season 2 once this finished. Definitely.
Would you say, I mean, if you think back to series 1 of the Clone Wars, was this sort of the moment where we see a bit more of the human side of the clones, and we sort of, I don't know, we change the way we see them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of episodes where the clones are bonding together as a military group, like brothers. But this one, I felt, showed more of their compassion towards like regular villagers, people, and their own individuality, really, that they could progress beyond just being just a mere soldier. So it kind of gave you hope for the future of the show, to think, well, these, your Rex and your Codys and your Waxes and your Boyles will become individuals. So when you see him, you'll be like, I know him. Yes, I like him.
It's quite impressive that they've done that, because it's obviously the same voice actor for all of them.
And there are so many
it's,
of them.
it's quite good.
It's just like,
yeah.
No, I mean, it goes to show by when we lose. I mean, Ian and I were chatting before we came online, and that throughout the 7 seasons, there's clones you've got to know over years who all of a sudden get killed, and you're like, oh my god, like Waxer gets killed at one point in the series. Echo, you think's died. Most of the guys from Rookies, I forget their name now. What were they called? Squad. The
Fives.
The Defect clone. They were named after him. I can't remember his name. Oh dear. Anyway, yeah. So most of their squad were gone by the end of the show. So I think it's a testament, isn't it, that we're watching we're 40-plus-year-old blokes are watching these TV show, this cartoon animated show, and we're like, oh man, they killed off so and so. We're sitting there like, so I think that's a great testament to what they've managed to do with the writing of these characters, and it makes it even more impressive, Adam, as you quite rightly put out. There's one guy voicing them all, and essentially they all look exactly the same, with perhaps a different haircut or a scar or tattoo or whatever. So really impressive.
Like I said, mine was Commander Pons. Me and Martin were talking about, because he's Mace Windu's right-hand man. And then later on in the show, when he dies, and I was like, no, I like him. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Across this arc, then, what was your favourite clone moment?
My favourite one would have to be when they turn to Obi-Wan and say, what's that word she keeps calling us? And then, just as he turns in the distance and he waves at her as if, and you think, he's got to that point where he is beyond his programming. He's now, I see him as a human soldier other than a clone. And it was a great moment. But there's just some good moments between the two of them. When he gives him the doll, and then he whacks him ball, and he's like, well, you help her? And he goes, well, me? As if I'm not a father. I don't do this sort of thing.
They Clone Wars always, it kind of did that thing that some of the cartoons in the 80s did, whereas they always finished on a moral or something, didn't they? Whereas the Clone Wars always kind of finished on not a moral, but kind of a lesson that character might have learned, or something along those lines. Especially in the earlier seasons, not so much in the latter seasons, but so again, maybe they were trying to replicate things that we grew up with when we were kids, trying to, because they always end on that sort of triumphant note, don't they? Or sad / triumphant note. So it's a really, really good point.
There's a couple of droid moments in the episode that follows the liberation of Ryloth, when the droids find a head of an old droid, and they're like, "Oh, it's whatever number." He's programmed from the original. He's useless. Not like us, where we're all individuals and they all go Roger, Roger, Roger,
Yeah.
Roger. And you think they're all exactly the same.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
And, did you pick up
That is very
the
good.
Terminator theme?
No.
when Obi-Wan he's down on the floor and T20 pulls up in that big tank, Numa
Oh
runs
yeah.
over to him, and T20 he's there in the cockpit of the tank, and he just goes ha 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 ha. You lose, General Kenobi. It's the theme from Terminator.
Oh my god!
But the way he laughs, you're like,
Yeah.
they must have put that in on purpose.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't
You blow my
didn't
mind
pick
a
up on
second
that at all.
time.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good pick.
And across the arc, then, which Jedi do you think had the best storyline?
Oh,
So we sort of saw Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu, all with very good storylines.
I would say Ahsoka learned the hardest lesson in it all. Yeah, but I mean they're all
Yeah.
good. I love Obi-Wan. I always think he's peak Jedi. I know Marty says Qui-Gon,
Yeah.
but he's wrong. It's Obi-Wan.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan wouldn't be as good as he is.
You can't use that argument.
But
Martin, what about you?
well, just quickly, the lesson that Ahsoka learned that Ian just brought up, that's the same kind of lesson that she learned in the Ahsoka series when they had the flashback, and they flashed back to her as young Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, and she was stood next to all of the injured clones. You know, that's actually quite reminiscent of that scene. So I wonder if actually that episode flashback was based on, you know, this battle, if you like, but on the planet, obviously. That's it. That's interesting. Sorry, what was the question, Adam?
Which Jedi did you think had the best storyline across the arc?
I think the coolest Jedi is always going to be Mace Windu, because he's just got the moves. But Obi-Wan is, you know, because Qui-Gon's obviously dead at this point. You know, it's got to be Obi-Wan for me. I just think James Arnold Taylor does such a great job of being Obi-Wan, and I think the animation model of him is just absolutely second to none. I think it's great. So yeah, it's got to be Obi-Wan. Definitely Obi-Wan.
I mean, he does prioritize like the Jedi ideals in this. He prioritizes life over them. Even them creatures when he herds them into the canyon instead of killing them, which they could have done. Just like
Wonder where he learned that from.
Don't know. Yoda.
Me. All right, Ian. Our final question is always,
I've got
what
some
makes
Easter eggs.
this?
Whoa!
Oh, you got some Easter eggs?
I've got some
Okay.
Easter eggs. I haven't done Easter eggs for a while, but there was a few in this one. Obviously, I mentioned Numa popping back up in Rebels, but the tactical droid that we saw in this episode, that we mentioned with the laugh earlier, this blew my mind. But when they designed him and they were trying to work out how to do his speech and how he spoke, they based his speech pattern on Lucifer from the classic Battlestar Galactica series. I mean, that to me is amazing, because I used to love Lucifer as a character. I mean, it's not so good now when you go back and watch it, but as a kid, I loved it. I thought it was great. So that was awesome. As Palps mentioned, Obi-Wan's gunship's got a picture of Salacious Crumb on the side dropping bombs, which is just brilliant. It's called the Crumb Bomber, I think.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And they kind of recreated a Order 66 scene where Obi-Wan loses his lightsaber, and Commander Cody hands it back to him. I don't know if you remember picking that bit up, where he jumps over the bridge that they destroyed. And there was some discussion in my household before we recorded this about a mistake that might have cropped up in the episode, and the only thing I could spot and is that when Obi-Wan jumped over the bridge, as he was pulling the creatures in, he had his lightsaber still on his belt. But then when he gets over the bridge, he gets handed it back by Commander Cody. So was I right? Is that the mistake?
Yes, as far as I know, yeah. He backs
Excellent.
into the canyon with it on his belt,
Yeah.
and then he leaps out, and Cody hands it to him, and you think, well, where did he drop it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Sorry. Over to you,
Okay.
Adam.
Back to me. Okay. Okay. What is it then, Palps, that makes this really capture the spirit of Star Wars for you?
Wow, that's well, you've got to say with the opening logo. I mean, the whole show opens with it anyway, but blank screen, yellow logo flies backwards, just says Star Wars. If you watch any other movie that did that, you'd literally go, they've ripped that from Star Wars. So you got the Clone Wars logo, zooms back, and it's like, this is it. Here we are, Star Wars universe. The fact that it's still got that used look about it, it's, the ships. I mean, I'm not sure how far into the Clone Wars we are at this point, but all the ships, all the armor, everything looks battered and beaten, and they're having a hard time keeping it nice and clean. You get the probe droids and the battle droids, which harkens you back to the old movies, Empire and Phantom Menace. All that sort of stuff just reels you in. All that familiarity.
Good stuff. Well, Ian, thank you so much for joining us on this. Another very enjoyable episode.
Yeah, it's been great.
To everyone watching, let us know your thoughts on the Ryloth arc in the comments below. That's it for another series of For the Love of Star Wars. So all there is to say is thank you, Nera.
Nanu.
I was waiting for your I'm off to do something or other.
Well, it was the last one and I couldn't really think of anything.